From Martine Studios in New York, your trending topic TV show. This is Talking Heads with Nizam.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to Talking Heads. I am your host, Nizam, and I have a great panel for you today. To my left, I have Frank, Mike, and Mike, and we're going to jump right into it. Frank, let's start with you. The first segment of my show is called What Are You Watching? Tell the people, what are you watching?
I'm watching this year's Rangers playoff run. I'm not a hockey fan, but I have to say that it's been pretty exciting to watch them play this level of hockey. Watching them come down from 3-1 in the first series to win that round and then go to the next ones against the Canucks. That was a really well-played game. And now seeing them in the Stanley Cup. So I have to say, they turned me to hockey a little bit.
Oh, that's cool. I've been watching the Rangers a little bit. I mean, how can you not? We're in New York. How can you not watch the Rangers? What about you, Mike? What are you watching?
Well, with Mad Men now over, I'm focused on the NBA playoffs.
Okay.
Hoping somebody beats the Miami Heat.
Oh, wow.
So we got one shot left.
LeBron
and
hater,
start
huh?
tonight, so I say go Spurs.
Other Mike, what are you watching?
I'm watching sports, but I'm watching reality television, man.
Oh, what do you got? What do you got? Are you watching the Ratchet TV, or are you watching
the Duck Dynasty?
Okay.
The anything that actually shows what America is really like out there, like, in a TV sense.
Wow. Duck Dynasty is what we're really about?
Hey, look at them, that's what they call the American family. You just added money to that.
Oh, wow. Okay, Duck Dynasty. I'm going to have to check that out. All right, let's get right into it. Out there, in the internet and whatever's going on, we have, some hoaxes and some craziness on the internet always. Currently, there's the hoverboard. Tony Hawk and some people got together and they put out this video about the hoverboard from Back to the Future, if you've ever seen that. And then also, this is crazy, white-only Arby's in Spring Hill, Florida are the two latest hoax. Mike, I want to start with you. Talk about, just information and just how people are just getting crazy with it.
It's crazy, isn't it? I heard about these two hoaxes, and I guess I'm a little bit glad that I don't have time to keep up with things as they're happening and as they're becoming phenomenons, because I didn't know about them in time to be fooled. I knew about them after it had been revealed that it wasn't what you first thought. But it's a crazy world we live in. I think it's a good thing that people can get stories out there without going through the traditional filters of needing editors and deadlines and the like. But at the same time, you got to be careful. So before you're hopping on to, before you're putting too much faith in a story that's just fresh out there, if you're not comfortable with the sources or whatever, I guess people got to slow down and let there be some verification before they take it too seriously.
What about you, Mike? How you feel about it?
I just find it funny. I'm a small business owner, and it takes me forever to get things trending on Facebook, Twitter, or anything like that. But a cat falling off a windowsill will have 1 million likes in a day. I just find it funny that the way the world is kind of centered around the information that's out there and what they'll believe and what they don't believe, or what they find important versus or trendy, and the different topics that it can be. So anything from a hoverboard to an all-white Arby's, it can be trending like that. Yeah.
Frank, what's your take, man?
Well, one of the hoax that I read this week from, I believe it was the New York Post, where the Google Streets caught a staged axe murder. The guy was laying on the floor.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was something along those lines. So what I find amazing is just how, thanks to the internet, Twitter, Facebook, and all these things, that these hoax can spread out very quickly.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think they may get a little out of hand. Maybe perhaps there's a little joke I want to do with maybe the three of you here, but all of a sudden, with the power of the internet and mobile devices, it becomes a worldwide phenomenon, and without me even wanting it to be. So
you know what it is? You know what I don't get is all right, the hoverboard hoax, okay, it's a joke, whatever. You got Christopher Lloyd, you got the DeLorean in the little video or whatever, and the video was okay. I think T.O. was the biggest giveaway on that one. You could kind of see in his shirt or whatever. A white-only's Arby's, the whole, all right, the hover thing, a joke, white-only's Arby, a joke or a hoax or whatever, but what's behind these people? I mean, I'd like to think Tony Hawk and Moby and T.O. and Christopher Lloyd are good guys. I don't know, I didn't really research the white-only Arby thing. I saw it on a Monday, and I put it into the show, and then I went, and I put together the subjects or the topics, and then I kind of shoot them out to you guys, and then I go back to them. And I went back and I'm like, it's a hoax, Like, well, the white only Arby's I thought was real, and I see something and I look at it and I'm kind of like, all right, and I write it down, and then I move on and I find something else. So yeah, within a 24-hour period, or within the period it took me to go back to it, I was like, wow, it's a hoax. And I'm like, we're still going to talk about it. But my thing is like, what's behind this? Like, does that make Tony Hawk look better or worse in the skateboard world? Whoever put this white only thing out, like
that the Tony Hawk thing is just cool. Like, you're gonna go back and watch it just because it's cool. And now that you know it's hoax, you're not gonna go and try it. I think that's the case. But the white only Arby's thing, I think is to hurt Arby's in the long run. That's the only reason somebody would put something like that out there. That's in my opinion.
I don't get it. I mean, Jon Stewart likes to hurt Arby's. I guess if you guys watch the Daily Show, like, he's got it out for Arby's. But I just don't get it. Even the the white only Arby's is one thing that can be taken so many different ways. But the hoverboard thing, it's just, I just don't get it. Like, I don't understand. They probably put money. People were probably paid. They put this whole video together. They got a DeLorean. They got Christopher Lloyd involved. Like, what's the payoff?
Well, as a tech guy, I want that hoverboard. They owe me that hoverboard. I mean, we were supposed to have flying cars by now. Yeah. And we don't. I mean, just now they're trying to figure out the GPS systems that got it down fine. So, quite frankly, I like the whole hoverboard hoax. I mean, I found that funny, and it's like, oh yeah, that's great. The white Arby's thing, poor taste.
Yeah.
I think that's very offensive. It's I don't get. The hoverboard I get. It's a joke if you're a tech person or you're just a futuristic kind of person. It's funny. Yes, finally here it is. And no, sorry, it's not. Just like the Star Wars. How many times did we see hoax of people putting out teasers of the new Star Wars? And, and it never happened. Now it's a reality, but before then. So it's just little teasers like, oh, we got you. Even iPhone 6, how many photos do you see of the new iPhone 6? But it's not. It's a hoax. Right. It's because it's just people want that interest. But the white Arby's, offensive.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the internet where if you really look at it, you got to wonder, like, what was the motivation for someone to take the time to make this, right?
Exactly.
Like, so I got a 4-year-old daughter, right? And she watches Peppa Pig, some cartoon on TV. When you go to YouTube and you pull up Peppa Pig, some of it is legit Peppa Pig episodes, like it would be on Nickelodeon, and some of it is like people like playing with Peppa Pig toys and filming it. And this happened to me this morning. I'm like, what is that person's motivation to put that on the internet? Yeah. So part of it, I guess it's just the nature of what the internet is. You just kind of got to accept some of that's out there. Some of it you're never going to understand what their motivation was, but to some extent that's what makes the internet interesting. Because if you didn't have creative people out there trying to do new things, and I'm not defending the person who did the Arby's hoax or any particular instance, right. But in the big picture, that's kind of what makes the internet valuable. Is that anyone with an idea can go out there, and if you got the right thing, you're going to be able to capture people's attention without going through the traditional channons.
Yeah.
You can throw it out there too that it's a way of getting popular without being in front of people. Right. You know what I mean? You created it. They now know that you made it. So now it's a way to gain popularity without doing a whole lot. So it's a.
But with the hoverboard thing, Tony Hawk is popular, right. And I guess he got his friends together and.
I'm kind of commenting on what he said there. Like when you make kind of just a stupid thing, like, and. In the case of the hoverboard, like I agree with you, it's kind of just to be cool. In the case of the Arby's thing, I really think it's just like they had a bad sandwich at Arby's, and this was their way to turn around. And since it trended, they got their popularity, what they wanted. So
maybe we should research this Arby's.
Maybe we should do our own. That we found chupacabra or something.
Let's do it. We got 2 entertainment guys here. Let's do something and get on the map.
That'd be fun.
Well, all right. So since we're on kind of on the lying and hoaxing and stuff, we'll keep it going. Next, I want to talk about the VA, the Veteran Affairs corruption that's going on right now. Basically, our veterans are coming back and they're not being taken care of by the Department of Veteran Affairs. There's a lot of long waits. There's been corruption in the wait times, and they've said that employees are being told or being pressured into cooking the books, if you will, to make these wait times look shorter and whatnot. And Eric Shinseki, he was this. I said it right. I was all in my head. I'm sorry. He just resigned. And Mike, why don't you start, man? How do you feel about that and about the corruption? Really, do you think anyone's going to see any jail time on this?
Props on getting the name correct. No, it's all big business. It's a government-run agency, so it's all big business. In the end, somebody will throw their hands up and be like, "Yeah, I got caught," and by having him retire recently, that's him throwing his hands up in the air and walking away gracefully, as they would say. Other than that, it's just going to go. Business is going to go on as normal. It's going to be like any other big thing that came out of the government. It'll be the topic of discussion for 5 minutes. Then something else will come up, and a cat will fall off another, windowsill, and that will be trending at the moment. So that's as far as I think it'll go.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I feel like Shinseki. I feel like he was could have been like the champion of this cause. It seemed that he stated previous that he. There were some senior executives that he was trying to get out of the system, but now he's leaving. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like when you do something like that, there's something coming along the road.
I think it's just nice words that he's saying on the way out the door. Like, oh yeah, I did try. Goodbye, everybody.
He's making his next move his best move. So
exactly.
So he can get something else.
Yeah, exactly. So,
what do you think, Frank?
I can't help but feel that this is just the surface of a bigger underlying issue. I think that this is just the beginning, where they're going to start conducting some investigations and find out some worse things that maybe perhaps is going to be really something of concern. Healthcare is a very expensive thing in this country, and now with the government involved with the healthcare, with the Obamacare as they call it, I think the problem is there's not enough money to help the veterans, and I think this is the problem: shortage of doctors, maybe perhaps that can help out. They just can't afford to pay the doctors the payroll to keep them on payroll, or the staff. So that's why these veterans are seeing longer wait times. But I think that there's something underneath all of this, and it's going to come out in the next couple of months, probably.
I agree with you too, and that's kind of what I was alluding to. Not to bring up George Bush, but weapons of mass destruction, all of a sudden administration starts leaving him before he ends his term. We have one resignation. Unfortunately, I feel like something's going to come down the road. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know. I agree with part of what you said, and then I think I get to a different conclusion. No, I think it's right that the VA and a lot of our government agencies are understaffed and underfunded to carry out the mission that they're supposed to be carrying out. So then in the VA situation, when you talk about the corruption was that employees there had to, quote unquote, cook the books to make it look like they were hitting the wait times. Now, you can talk about that being wrong, and I'm not saying it's right, but the fundamental problem is there was no way for them to hit the wait times the right way, right? So you're putting people in the position where they have to cook the books, quote unquote, in order to keep their jobs. Really, I mean, yes, the corruption itself is a problem, but the problem is they don't have the resources, they're not paid enough money, and they don't have enough help to do it the way it's supposed to be done. So for the politicians who jump in at the end and act like the only outrage was the people doctoring up the books, rather than the outrage being that the VA wasn't properly funded or staffed to care for our veterans, I think they're missing the point.
I think that's a really good point, and I use VA corruption because that's just for lack of a better word, and maybe it's VA lack of resources, which doesn't necessarily flow off the tongue and is probably not going to make big headlines. But on a smaller level, talking about government agencies like Department of Motor Vehicle, I feel like they maybe a year or two ago they were on like the first Apples and like Commodore 64s, like trying to process stuff, and now you can go online, you can get your license, you can go online, you can renew your registration. When you go to the DMV, it's not like, hey, you take a number, you go here, and then this person, all right, what's your number for? Okay, we're on 17, and it's I feel like at least at a local level right now, and at least in White Plains, things are getting better, like the technology is getting better. For some reason, I feel like the government didn't keep up with everyone else. Like the VA, they're still on paper. You know, so you have people. So now when you're entering stuff, are you entering it into that Commodore 64, or do you have a Mac, or do you have? So I feel like your response is very valid, and maybe I should not say corruption anymore, but just.
Well, I can tell you, I used to work in a past life, I used to work for the IRS. So you want to talk about a similar agency. It's not so much that they're understaffed. There's a lot of bureaucracy that's within each one of the, any one of them you talk about. The level of, it's always top heavy. There's 4 managers for every 1 worker, and to get anything done, you need to walk it through all these steps, and I can see why there was a long wait time. I think I can understand where it was, because not only do you have to process everything, but now you have to have 3 managers sign off on it as well. So that's also a part of that goes into that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too. I'm gonna stop saying corruption because I don't feel like it. I mean, it's bad things,
Well, we don't know if it's corruption yet. That's really what it is, and that kind of plays into what you were saying, is that we don't know what's coming next. Maybe it was corruption, or maybe it's finally coming to light that all our systems are just outdated at this point, and there's no way that they could even come close to what they have projected as being sufficient, so.
Well, speaking of projections, I think that's kind of where the corruption comes in, is the higher ups, meeting their numbers and getting bonuses and getting paid. I think that's kind of where the corruption comes in, but like you said, it falls back to the resources.
Yeah, I mean, look, corruption is corruption, and you don't want to justify it if it happens. But if you really want to get to the root of the problem, right, it's too easy to just say, people were doctoring the books, it's inexcusable, we're going to fire all of them, right? There's no solution here. I mean, you have to look at why they were in the position of doing it. If they were each taking home $2 million by cooking the books, then there's your motivation. They were just straight up crooks, and that's the problem. But if they had no other way, if they had no way to do the job the way they were being tasked to do it, it's just human instinct to try to, self-preservation. And again, that doesn't justify it, but if you're actually looking to get to the root of the problem, you don't just cut off the conversation by talking about how they cook the books. You have to get at whether they had the adequate staffing and funding levels and resources needed.
Yeah.
My curiosity is, I wonder how many of those doctors that were treating the veterans were told be cost conscious.
Of course.
If you have a patient, they'll probably say, well, how much will it cost us? Well, it cost us $25,000. Well, can we do it for 10? And the doctor says, well, maybe we can do it for 10, but he won't be right. And they'll say, well, will he be okay?
Right.
Well, there's
so I wonder if it's not necessarily doctors were told, treat them at the cheapest way possible.
Right.
Because then at that point, then you start looking at words like corruption level.
Right.
Because
you're right, I agree with you, but that involves a cost-benefit analysis that I'm not sure our political system is capable of running. Particularly in the healthcare context, everyone wants to talk about lowering costs, and everyone wants to talk about getting better care, as if you can just magically wave a wand and get better care for lower costs and have there be no downside to it. It's hard to have a serious conversation about what costs we're willing to live with, what benefits we want to insist on, and I think that's probably true in both the VA context and not just healthcare more broadly, but other government functions as well.
Yeah. I think when it comes to healthcare, whether it's Affordable Care Act or whether it's the old system or whatever, I think the magic is in the medicine. I feel like the drug pushers are still kind of that's what it comes down to.
Big business. It's all big business,
and we have to weed some of that stuff out, and we have to be be willing to try to change or catch up to where we're not at. But let's lighten it up. Let's switch it up a little bit here. So Uber, if you're unfamiliar with Uber is basically it's everyone's private driver. They're in a few cities across the nation. They're in New York City, and basically it's an app, and you can hail your own vehicle or your own ride from your app, and they're under a little fire right now. They're saying that they're underinsured. And basically, the taxi commission, they're in like a little battle, but Uber's pushing along and they're doing their thing. How do you feel about Uber? You use Uber?
I do use Uber, and I don't understand how the whole insurance part comes into play. If I call a cab,
if you call Uber and you get into an accident with them, you may and like let's say you get hurt, you may be left with some unpaid medical bill because you don't, it wasn't your accident, you just happened to be in the vehicle. But there's been cases where insurance companies are denying these claims. So it's kind of an Uber problem, but it's kind of an insurance thing too. But that's one of their issues right now.
But as a cab driver, you accept the passenger. So wouldn't that fall under the taxi's insurance as well? So I'm the cab driver. I have a choice not to pick up that person or not. If I do, that should be my responsibility.
My understanding
That's a whole other issue when you decide not to pick up somebody.
No, but my understanding of it is that if you're driving a registered taxi with a medallion, right, then the insurance is through whatever the channel is, whether it's the city or whatever municipality gets insurance on the taxi. So if you have an accident in that context, the taxi is insured for that kind of thing. But if you're driving your own car for commercial purposes, where you've just decided one day to wake up and basically use yourself as a taxi driver, then the insurance you have through your own personal insurance company might say, no, we're not covering your commercial use of the car. It's for your own personal use. I think that's where the disconnect comes up. And look, I mean, for a company like Uber, it sounds like, I don't use it, so I can't speak educatedly, but it sounds like they had a great idea, but that's a pretty fundamental problem they're going to have to make sure they clear up if they're really going to take off.
So again, like just kind of tying all these things together, the taxi commission needs to catch up, like because they should already be doing this. There shouldn't be a situation where, someone like myself in New York City holds his hand up and I see an empty cab with his light on who can pick someone up, either just drive by me and pick up Frank or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like it should be a convenience for the passenger, for the client, let's say the client, and it's one of those things where here comes the red tape, here comes the politics, the taxi commission and the registered drivers aren't up on the technology.
Well, look how long it took to just get credit card processing, and that alone, it just kind of proves how long it will take to get them to catch up in the long run. So, I think that's a great point of disposition for them. Is like, it took us forever to be able to run your credit card, and how long has credit card's been around for? So
and Uber I think is they're at the top of their game right now. They have like a regular taxi company, they have like a base of location, and so that was one of the things. But Uber, I think they have different locations, like different smaller locations, almost like a rental car place. So I think I'm with Uber on this. I feel like that someone came up with a great idea, and it makes it very convenient for the passenger or the client, and the red tape and politics of it, man, it's just it's a terrible thing in my eyes. I'm just like,
but I'd push back at you a little bit, because the taxi commission may have their own issues, and if there are empty taxis driving past you, who could be picking you up, they need to deal with that, right? But when you're talking about cars that are not registered through the taxi commission, I don't know what jurisdiction the taxi commission has. Like, if you want to just rent out your car and let people call you and you charge them $10 to drive them somewhere, I don't know that the taxi commission can do anything about him.
Well, I think like the limousine drivers. I really should have looked into this for a little bit better now that I think about it. But I think that they're I don't know. I'm not going to talk to. I'm not going to talk to. But that's a good point. I didn't really think about that because they're already doing it. Uber's already doing it. So if they're breaking the law, then
if they've been shut down already, if it's been something.
Well, it may not be illegal, but if what happens is they're getting into accidents and it's not covered by their own insurance, then they're not going to last very long, because people then are not going to be comfortable getting in their cars.
Right.
So they'll have to figure it out for themselves. And if they want to remain a viable private company that's going to be an alternative to publicly registered cabs, then they got to figure out this insurance thing pretty quick, so people feel comfortable when they call an Uber driver.
Yeah,
especially when the cabs are spending millions of dollars on those licensing things. And that in general, they're spending so much money. That's why they want them out of here. They're losing out on profit.
We're going to come back back to that because I'm gonna research that a little more. You guys made some good points. I gotta talk about this because this is stupid and funny and crazy. But Justin Bieber, Jonah Hill, two kind of different situations, but basically, they have had their racial slur incidents, and there actually is another one from when I sent you guys this till now. Another video has come out with Bieber like singing some song using the N-word or something like that. How you guys feel about this craziness?
Justin Bieber can, he has jumped off the deep end in a long run. So whatever he does at this point is just another swirl down the proverbial toilet. But at least Jonah Hill came on TV and made a statement to the public apologizing. He was on the Tonight Show and made a public statement of apology. And even though it was funny in the way he did it, he still was overall like, oh, I'm sorry. So, but Justin Bieber will still chop himself down until he's that tall.
I'm right with Mike. I agree with you 100%. He just needs to go away for a little while.
Canada doesn't even want him back.
And that's the best thing he could do for his career right now. And like Jonah, like you said, he came out, he apologized, and that says a lot about his character.
Yeah.
Okay, I recall an incident that happened with Kobe Bryant one time. When he was sitting on the bench and he screamed out a slur at one of the, I think a referee, I think it was. You know what? He came out, he apologized, and that was it. It's all about how sincere you are, and you admit that you did something wrong at the moment. It was the heat of the moment, and it's not really your character, and we all move on.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, I don't know that I want to be the Bieber defender among them.
You do have kids.
I would just say, when people are using, whether it's the N-word or any other racially sensitive term, certainly if they use them maliciously, they deserve to be, destroyed and have their reputation destroyed. And you could have a whole discussion, and many people have, about the use of either that particular word or other slurs. But I think it's always important to consider the context. So like Riley Cooper, the famous NFL player who yelled the N-word at an African American in the context of trying to start a fight, inexcusable, right? But other people are using it in other contexts and defending the way they use it. I don't use it, but you at least have to give them the benefit of listening to the context and hearing out what they were saying and what they meant by it before you really come down to it.
Justin Bieber doesn't deserve that.
He doesn't deserve it. Here's my whole thing with this, and I'm going to take it to the bottom of the ocean. I agree with the context. It comes down to the context, but it also comes down to, this is something from a kid, and it was 5 years ago. Why is it just coming out now? He's in the news now. He's not doing so well now. So all of a sudden now, either someone's out there putting stuff out to make some money, to further, destroy this kid or whatever the case may be. But it's, to me, I give it no merit because it should have came out when it came out. In Major League Baseball, don't go up to Alex Rodriguez 3 years later and be like, hey, remember in 2009? Don't go to Reggie Bush and be like, hey, we did an investigation and 5 years later we're gonna take. He's like, here, just take it. It's just like this retroactive punishment. Is just crazy. Like even Donald Sterling, like his girlfriend backed him into a corner and he just started spewing all kinds of crazy stuff out, but he's had lawsuits and he's had stuff going on over the last 8 to 10 years. Maybe the end justifies the means with him, but it's just like this retroactive punishment off of stuff is crazy.
Yeah, but that's also part of being in the public eye. And I think that, and I'm pretty sure that TMZ is the one who broke the stuff on
probably all these guys.
Yeah, well, no, I know definitely for Bieber because that's where I actually found out about it.
I think it was Jonah too, and it was definitely Sterling.
Yeah, because and the only reason I say it like that is because their entire job is to go digging and digging and digging and digging, and it could be 10 years ago when he was 9 years old, and they found something where he was spouting off at the mouth about anything, and they would still put it on the show. Because it pulls in ratings, and it's just another big business. So.
I hear you. I had to get to that story. Unfortunately, we have to head out. We have no time left. You can check us out WPCommunitymedia.org. You can also check us out on Fridays at 8 p.m. on Verizon 45 and Cablevision 76. Thank you, Mike, and Frank. My name's Nizam. We're out of here. We'll see you real soon.